4-H Chaperone Policies, a guide for 4-H adult chaperones.
Thank you for serving as a chaperone. Because of you, 4-H members are able to take part in Learn by Doing travel experiences. Many adults like you have helped me with my own travel experiences. Again, thank you.
This is a big deal. Not only are the young people in your charge excited about the event or topic you are to be involved in, it may be their first opportunity away from home or traveling without parents.
As a chaperone, you help set the tone for the event. Depending on the age of the young people and the nature of the event, you may also have other significant responsibilities.
Responsibilities vary by event. This training covers some of those events, plus gives some general guidelines for travel and for setting expectations with your group.
This interactive module will take about 30 minutes. It's an overview, and your extension staff will be able to help fill in any of the missing details about the event for which you are responsible.
Let's get started. There are a few objectives we'd like to share regarding this module on being a 4-H chaperone. First, we'd like you to understand and recognize the important role that chaperones play in the experience the 4-H member has, as well as be aware of your roles and responsibilities as a chaperone. Second, we'd like you to be able to recognize and manage risks as you serve as a chaperone to ensure the 4-H member is safe. Third, we'd like you to implement positive youth development practices, which is the overall goal for all 4-H programs. Finally, we'd like you to be able to identify and recognize how the behavior of youth and adults impacts experiences for the 4-H members.
Downloadable resources can be accessed at any time during this presentation by clicking the Resources tab in the upper right of the screen. At times, you'll be asked to click on parts of a slide for more information, or to click on pictures on a slide. Most of the slides in this presentation will advance on their own. However, there are also several slides that will ask you to click the Next button in the lower right corner. This slide, for instance, click the Next button now to move on.
It's the goal of 4-H to provide a fun, healthy, and safe learning environment for youth involved in its activities and events. The personal behavior of each participant is important to the success of all 4-H events. In order to provide an optimal learning environment, participants must commit to full participation in accomplishing the goals of the event. For further information, refer to the codes of conduct you were asked to download before starting this presentation.
There are common rules all chaperones need to follow no matter the event. In this picture, you will notice an overnight event where the 4-H youth and adult volunteers are together in the foyer area of a hotel. Find the 3 hot spots in this picture indicating inappropriate chaperone behavior. By signing the Code of Conduct, an adult volunteer promises to accept their responsibility to represent their county and the university with dignity and pride, and be a positive role model to youth. They will exhibit good sportsmanship and conduct themselves in a courteous, respectful manner. Chaperones are not allowed to possess alcohol or illegal drugs and should avoid smoking and the use of tobacco products at 4-H events when youth are present. Chaperones are to respect the property of others, including clothing, personal items, equipment, and facilities.
As a chaperone, you are on duty 24 hours a day in an overnight event. It's important for you to know the whereabouts of 4-H members at all times and act within the scope of the 4-H Volunteer Code of Conduct throughout the entire chaperoning experience. This chaperone is asleep on the job. Even though there are other chaperones around, she is expected to follow the same guidelines for all chaperones. Chaperones are to follow the same dress code as youth. Showing too much skin and undergarments of any kind is not acceptable. Note that clothing with inappropriate sayings, logos, and gestures are not acceptable, including beer advertising. They must refrain from the use of physical or verbal abuse and from inappropriate or unwanted touching of youth and adults.
Research has identified 4 essential elements that encourage my development: belonging, mastery, independence, and generosity. I need belonging, which includes a positive relationship with a caring adult, an inclusive environment, and a safe environment, both physically and emotionally. Click on each of the pictures to get more explanation of each.
Research suggests that belonging may be the single most powerful positive ingredient we can add into the lives of youth.
Why do I need you to focus on my mastery and engagement in my learning? Engagement matters. I need to experience success at solving problems and meeting challenges.
Check out ways that you can set boundaries and help youth experience success. Keep youth engaged by letting them determine what to do during free time, as well as engaging them in planning and leading additional activities for future learning when possible.
I need independence. I need to see myself as an active participant in my learning, able to influence people and events through decision-making and action, so that I can better understand myself and become an independent thinker.
Facilitate this by involving youth in decision-making, establishing discipline, and leading group activities during the event. As adults, remember to step back and let the youth plan, discuss, and make decisions that affect the program, guiding and advising as necessary.
I need opportunities for generosity. By participating in community service, I build connections to communities and learn to give back. These experiences can help me understand the big picture of life and find purpose and meaning.
As the chaperone of a group, your actions will teach and speak louder than words. Team up with youth to lead reflection on opportunities for service and ways to apply what was learned when they return home. You play an essential role in providing an inclusive and safe environment for youth to explore the connections between the activity and their daily life. When working with youth, there are many things to keep in mind that will make the experience positive for both the youth and the adults. A few pointers include: never be alone with youth. Be sure that there are other adults around and never put yourself in the position of being alone with just one young person. This includes transporting youth in a vehicle. When talking with youth in a motel room or doing room checks, be sure to always leave the doors open. Always be sure to remain in the hallway and have a visual of the youth.
Hold meetings in a public place. Don't place yourself in a situation where you are alone with a youth. Be sure to keep all your conversations with youth on a friendly level, but not a personal level. It's inappropriate to have conversations about their personal life or to talk about things that would be uncomfortable with either you or the young person. When traveling overnight, youth and adults must be housed in separate rooms. All of these practices are meant to protect both the youth and you, as a chaperone, from allegations of misconduct and to ensure the safety of all individuals. You may think we don't need to talk about some of these things because they are common sense, but we know it's important to address them to ensure common understanding.
The Youth Program Quality Pyramid outlines 4 areas we focus on as we strive to build quality programs. For a refresher of the 4 areas of safety, support, interaction, and engagement, review Slide 7 from the Creating Welcoming Environments module. Listen as others explain the importance of building quality experiences for youth. As you prepare for the chaperone experience, there are several things to know that will make your experience flow well. First, check to see if your county has a checklist for you to use to help organize. Collect the cell phone numbers of all youth and adults participating in the experience and share those with all members of the group and 4-H staff. In case of emergency, these numbers will be quickly accessible. It will be important to review the schedule with all participants and be clear about timelines, such as when meal times are, when free time is, what time lights out will occur, and if transportation is involved, when and where to meet and be ready to leave. Take time to review the participants' health cards before your departure to be aware of what medications the youth are on, as well as what health issues they might have. It's also important to know if the youth can take their own medications or if you need to collect all medications and administer them to youth. Talk with your county 4-H staff for further direction. Designate one chaperone to be in charge of the health cards at all times. The health card also contains the member code of conduct. These must go wherever the group goes. It will be important to have a discussion with all participants about the use of cell phones and when it's acceptable to use them. Have a conversation at the beginning of an event that outlines the plan. This could include turning the ringer off, phone use during the night, including texting, or even if there is a need to collect cell phones at specific times to limit the distractions during a program. Reporting is an important part of chaperoning. It will be necessary to complete an incident report form for situations that occur. On an incident report form, please document injuries, illness, or behavior, and note the witnesses or other participants who were involved. It's also important to document observations that others made regarding the incident in the event that any additional follow-up would be needed. These incident report forms are also used in the event a medical claim needs to be filed, so details about the incident as well as steps taken during the event should be indicated. The incident report form should be filed with the County 4-H staff upon your return. Extension paid and volunteer staff should be alert to the physical and emotional state of all youth participating in programs. Signs of injury, self-reporting, or suspected child abuse or neglect should be reported to local law enforcement authorities. Both paid staff and volunteers are mandatory reporters and must contact authorities if they suspect physical or emotional abuse has occurred.
When a young person is acting out, there seems to be a few things behind that behavior. It's natural for a young person to test their limits, so it's important to be clear about the rules and back them up. If you are inconsistent with the rules, we will continue to test the limits. Sometimes boredom or the lack of limits and guidelines will make youth act out, especially if there is no activity during a lengthy presentation. It's important to remember that youth want to be engaged and involved and also want to feel the adults care about them. When responding to youth who misbehave, it is important to use a warm but firm tone when imposing consequences or follow-up action. Some youth love to talk, and others not so much. Make an effort to be understanding and accepting of feelings and reactions. Listen and encourage us to reflect on our experiences. We need to share our views and opinions with others, consider the pros and cons of issues, and experience how others will react to what we say. Scroll over parts of the experiential learning model to view simple questions you can ask to enhance your conversation. Experience is the hands-on action step. We do our projects sometimes before we are shown or told how to do them. As leaders, do you sit on your hands enough? Don't rob us of our own discoveries as we experience a project. Let us experiment with new ideas, interests, projects, and so on.
What was your goal for this project when you began? What did you learn while doing this project? How did you share your project with others? What did you learn about yourself in this experience? What was the most challenging part? What new questions do you have about this? What key points have you learned? What similar experiences have you had to this? Where might this situation occur again? How can you use these skills in other situations? What are some ways you can learn new things? How will you act differently as a result of this?
As a chaperone, you are responsible for the youth and their safety during an event. Many details of events are well planned, and you know what to expect. But there are some times that the unexpected happens. This may include a severe storm warning that could impact programming where you must take immediate shelter, or a winter storm that may cause you to return home a day early. It might be an unexpected illness where a youth requires hospitalization and you must have a chaperone remain with the youth at the hospital, or a flight cancellation or bus breakdown that could impact your ability to transport youth and get to the next location. Each of these unexpected events has the ability to cause frustration and sometimes fear on how to handle the situation. It's important at all times to remain calm. Take a moment to assess the situation and pass on key information to the participants. Your role at this time will be to keep the group calm and help them take the necessary step, such as move to a storm shelter or assign roles to assist with the emergency. It is important to have a conversation with youth about how to react in an emergency and to ensure them that you will keep in constant communication with them throughout the situation. It will be important to talk about how and when they communicate messages to family members. For example, if a flight was canceled, it would be appropriate for youth to wait to text or call their family until a flight is rescheduled and details about the change can be communicated, instead of causing panic with family members about the canceled flight and parents wanting to talk to the chaperone who is trying to get a new plan in place.
As the chaperone, you may find yourself as the adult in charge. Your county 4-H staff should have equipped you with many details about the event. This could include items such as the motel contract, so you know how many rooms you are supposed to have, a contact name for the motel staff, and a detailed itinerary. As the adult in charge, you will need to communicate details to those involved, such as the bus driver, motel manager, tour destination, or others. You will need to have specific details and be able to communicate them to the group to keep them aware of plans and to stay on time.
As a part of your chaperone experience, it'll be very important to provide an orientation to the youth you will be working with before the event begins. They will need to be introduced to all chaperones and staff who will be accompanying them on their experience. You will want to review the expectations for the event. Depending on the type of event, you could also facilitate a conversation with the youth about their ideas for rules. Sometimes a curfew time can be negotiated. Youth may also have input on dress code. Allowing youth to have input will give them buy-in and they feel ownership in the expectations.
There are times when it is appropriate for a chaperone to respond immediately and deal with the situation. At other times, it is important to take a step back and to think through the response you will give to the youth. It may be a good idea to talk with a 4-H staff member before proceeding. We are going to look at 3 scenarios and examine the appropriate responses and what role a chaperone has in determining the consequences for youth. Click on each of the scenarios this chaperone is considering before she leaves with her group. Watch as each scenario unfolds.
It is important to understand that authority may vary depending on the situation. There are times when 4-H staff are present and may be available to address the situation. When 4-H staff are present, it is best practice to involve them.
You are chaperoning an event where youth are in hotel rooms. At 1:30 a.m., you receive a phone call from one of the youth indicating his roommate is missing. You immediately rise and do a check in the hallways and around the hotel to look for the youth. You wake another adult chaperone to join you as you work to find the missing youth. You take the youth's photo and stop at the front desk to find out if he has been seen. He has not been seen, so you return to the youth's room to talk to the roommate. You ask the roommate if he noticed his friend leaving or heard any discussions or plans the youth may have had. During this conversation, you learn that the youth had plans to meet one of the females in the delegation. You and the other chaperone knock on the door of the young woman's room. You find the missing boy and ask him and the girl to come with you to the lobby. you question them and ask them to explain what has occurred. Before you send them to their rooms, you explain to them that they are to meet you at 7:30 a.m. in the hotel lobby. At that time, you will contact the county 4-H staff and their parents. Immediately write up an incident report documenting the details of the event, including names of those involved. The next morning, before the youth meet you in the lobby, make a call to the county 4-H staff. Fill them in on the situation that occurred. Let the staff member know that you will also be calling the parents of the youth and will document that call on the incident report. At 7:30 a.m., when the youth arrive, explain to them how the phone calls will be made. You will make the initial phone call to the youth's parents and inform them that you are the chaperone at the event and that there has been an incident involving their child. But you are going to give the phone to their child and they will explain the situation. After the parents have spoken with their child, you will take the phone back to discuss follow-up measures. For instance, while still on the trip, the youth may have restrictions of opportunities, such as not being permitted to participate in social events or needing to check in with chaperones on a more regular basis. If youth behavior does not change, the youth could be sent home at their own expense.
The Zarlog County 4-H program has done an exchange program with Zarlog County, West Virginia, to learn more about 4-H, to meet youth and families, and to explore West Virginia. During this exchange, while the youth were staying in homes with West Virginia families, one of your youth and a youth from the host family consumed alcohol and were stopped by local police while driving a vehicle. As the chaperone, you receive the call from the parents of the host family and are asked to go to the police station to pick up the delegate. It will be important for you as a chaperone to contact the County 4-H staff back home to notify them of the incident and to complete the incident report form about the details that have occurred, including names of youth, time of incident, names of officer from the police station, and phone numbers of those you have been in contact with in case further follow-up is needed. It will be necessary for you to contact the parent of the youth and discuss the incident with them. You will need to explain to them that due to the actions of the youth, their child will need to be sent home immediately, which was a condition of the exchange group code of conduct. In order to send the child home, you will be charging an airline ticket to the credit card you have on file to send the child home. You will be taking the youth to the airport and waiting with them at the gate until they have boarded. The parents are to meet the youth at the airport back home. Be sure to inform the parents that you have been in contact with the County 4-H staff, who will be following up with the youth and family at a later date. As the chaperone at State Fair, you have two youth who are not present at the 11 p.m. curfew in the dorm. You try to call their cell phones, but there is no answer. Dorm staff ask you to wait with them until the youth are accounted for. At 11:20, the dorm staff escort the two youth to the common area where you are waiting. Dorm staff informs you that their typical consequence for youth who are late for curfew is to have them assist with cleaning duties in the dorm early the next morning. They inform you that the parents do not need to be called. However, if the youth are more than 30 minutes late, phone calls begin and a form explaining the infraction is completed and sent to the County 4-H staff.
As a chaperone, you are likely to deal with transportation and lodging during the event. You'll also find that the type of event, such as a county, regional, state, or national event, will affect your leadership and expectations during the event. We'd like to review some different elements to the different types of events you will be involved with. You will select an option in each of the categories and more information will be provided for you. Let's start with transportation. Details related to getting to and from an event are important for a chaperone to know. Driving, riding on a bus, cars, vans, airplanes, and trains are all ways in which a group may travel. Here are a few guidelines to remember, no matter what type of transportation is used. First, always have a designated meeting time and place. When transporting youth, an adult should never be alone with just one youth. The only exception is if the chaperone is the parent to the child or a parent of the youth has given written notice that it is okay for the youth to ride alone with the chaperone. Best practice is to have 2 adults when traveling with one child, or 2 or more youth traveling with one adult. Now, click on the method of travel you will be using.
How about lodging? Click the type of lodging your group will use.
If you are chaperoning an event at camp, you will likely be housing youth in a cabin or tent, where boys and girls will be housed separately. When it's time for curfew, cabin or tent checks should be done by 2 adults, ideally 1 male and 1 female. It's important during a room check to remain in the hallway and see the youth in the room or tent. Make sure you see their eyes to ensure they are present. Lumps in the bed or sleeping bag leave their tent or cabin. It will also be necessary to monitor the hallway outside the youth's rooms into the night, just in case they try to sneak out. Click Next to look at the type of event in which you are participating.
The type of event also factors into event coordination and the responsibilities you will have as a chaperone. What type of event will you attend?
If you are in charge of a local club or county event, such as county ski trip, county exchange, or county camp, as the chaperone, you are likely very knowledgeable about the details of the event, and you will be needed to keep the event moving. You will have a list of all youth participating, transportation plans, and the itinerary of events. For a state event, such as state fair, leadership event, or other trainings, the chaperone may be responsible for shepherding youth during the event and keeping youth on task, attending workshops with them, checking youth into sessions, guiding reflection with the youth, and assisting the coordinators of the event with details as needed.
At a regional event, such as livestock camp or project bowl, you may be responsible for elements of the trip such as transportation or registration. Taking the time to check in with 4-H program staff to know details, coordinate transportation, communicate with participants, etc. You will be responsible for providing the on-site direction to the youth. If you are chaperoning a national event, such as Citizenship Washington Focus, National Congress, Judging Team, or National 4-H Shooting Sports, as the chaperone, you are likely to be in charge of many details, such as transportation, lodging logistics, etc. It's expected you will work closely with the 4-H staff, either a local staff or a state staff, regarding the details of the event. You'll be expected to be coordinating the movement of youth to events, checking youth into their rooms, and providing guidance to youth as well as to help youth reflect on their learning experiences. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve as a 4-H chaperone. I hope you are looking forward to the experience ahead. I know I am. It takes volunteers like you to help to make this a great experience for me and other youth.
This overview of being a 4-H chaperone was intended to help you understand the expectations of being a chaperone and how to help this be a great learning opportunity for kids. Thank you for your commitment to young people and for helping youth have the best possible experience.